Hello everyone and welcome to Top 5 Wednesday. The topic for this week is favourite sci-fi and fantasy reads, and this is all linked to the BookTube Sci-Fi and Fantasy Awards, the voting of which won't take place until June, but the shortlists for each of the categories have now been decided, so I will leave a link to the BookTube Sci-Fi and Fantasy Awards Goodreads page in the description down below so you can see what books are nominated for what awards, and you can obviously talk about them and participate in read-alongs for each of the categories if you so wish. So I had a pretty big job in choosing 5 books to talk about for this video. I tend to read more fantasy than sci-fi because I'm more into magic and dragons and princesses than I'm into cool, spacey, techie science stuff, but I do enjoy both genres when I read them. So the first book I want to talk about is A Game of Thrones by George R. R. Martin. This is of course the first book in the A Song of Ice and Fire series. Everyone and their mother knows about this series because of the TV adaptation. If you're a fan of the TV show, I thoroughly recommend that you pick up the books if you haven't already, because as is the case normally with book to TV or book to film adaptations, you just get so much more from the books. I feel a little bit differently about some of the characters in the books to how I feel about them on the TV show, so I thoroughly recommend, if you're not too intimidated by the massive size of these books, then pick them up because they're really, really addictive, and I promise you, you'll really enjoy them. Another book that I talk about a lot on my channel is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This is a really, really fast-paced, really dramatic YA. I don't know whether it's sci-fi or fantasy. I think it probably straddles both. It's about 2 college roommates, Victor and Eli, who for Eli's thesis, they decide to prove the existence and the possibility of extraordinary people or people with superpowers. So it's told in dual chapters between their college years and 10 years later in the aftermath, after everything has happened between them as a result of this, and it's brilliant. And I have heard rumours that this is being made into a film, and I can just see it being this amazingly successful superhero anti-hero big blockbuster film, which would just be amazing. But if that's going to happen, you guys have to read the source material because it's just incredible. So if you do like the whole superhero anti-hero trope, then Vicious is a great pick for you. Another book that I have to talk about in this video is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book in the Throne of Glass series, which you will know I love. This is definitely my favourite instalment so far. The later books, although the characters are still incredibly rich and incredibly addictive and all of that, this book on its own is definitely my favourite. It's very dramatic, very emotional, very bloodthirsty, and the action of the books that come after this just haven't really lived up to it for me, but I am still really excited to see where this series goes. I have all of my fingers crossed that it will go the way I want it to, but I'm not entirely sure it will at the moment. But if you've only read the first book in this series, then pick this one up because in my opinion this is the best one and it will definitely make you want to read more. So yeah. Another sci-fi book that I really, really love is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, and I don't think I could describe this in a way that would do it justice, but I will just say that it's unlike any other book I've ever read, and if you're into 80s pop culture, 80s films, 80s TV, 80s games, you will love this book. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say. That's all I possibly could say, but it's very fast-paced. The characters are incredible again, so yeah, definitely one of my favourite sci-fi reads. And the last book I want to talk about is a fantasy called The Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. This is the first book in a fantasy trilogy. It has elements of Throne of Glass, Game of Thrones, and it has had some Hunger Games comparisons to it. But again, it's a very, very unique fantasy. The main character, Kelsey, is one of my favourite YA fantasy characters, and it's very funny. She's a very relatable, real character. The ending, which a lot of people weren't too impressed with, I really loved. It is violent at times, it's romantic at times, it's emotional at times. It will take you on a roller coaster, but I really recommend this trilogy if you haven't read it already. And that is it for this week's Top 5 Wednesday. What is some of your favourite sci-fi and fantasy reads? Let me know. I will leave all of my social media in the description down below. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you very soon for another video. Bye bye.